Hello, it's Wendy here. I want to talk about PTSD. I think a lot of people have actually got PTSD. They think they have to go to war to get it, but you can live in the suburbs and have a family and friends and get it as well. I suspect if you're listening to this, you either have PTSD or you know someone who has. And I want to talk to you today about fear in the body, like in the mind. I know that they medicate PTSD and you can go to counselling and lots of different things. But I really think that the PTSD is caused by fear in the body. That's one of the major things. It might exhibit that you feel anxiety, and you'll get that around your stomach quite often. However, that's still one of the things you get when you have PTSD. Today I'm talking about fear, though. Fear is actual fear. And I think that when the traumatic event happens, or events happens, particularly if you're in an abusive relationship or you've had childhood abuse, those continually cause more and more fear, and it starts to build up. And the way the body does it, and the mind, if you can't deal with it right now, it stores it. So it puts it somewhere in your mind or puts it somewhere in your body, and then it gets stuck there. That's what's so difficult about PTSD. You can't always target it. You can't always find where it is. However, if we know and acknowledge that we've got fear, our body and our mind, that's where we can start working. The fear will often exhibit as anxiety. You'll get very anxious about things. You'll be ridiculously nervous about things that everyone else can do quite easily and you can't. And that will come into your PTSD sort of symptoms, which will be nervousness, depression, not being able to do things, not being able to sleep, not being able to eat. You know what I'm talking about. The PTSD is a real thing that's happening to you. You're not imagining it. It's actually a physical thing in a sense, because your fear is actually making physical symptoms. You'll have emotional symptoms too, mental and psychological, but it's the fear. And I want to talk about that today. When it happened, you were really scared, you were really petrified, and you were probably what I'd call paralysed in fear. And that's what I want you to think about, that you became paralysed. That feeling of being paralysed, like you just stop, almost a numb feeling, like it's so overwhelming. And that's what's got stuck in you, in your body and your mind. And that's what we want to talk about and get rid of, and find ways to get rid of that fear. Once the fear goes, the PTSD has a much better chance of healing in you. And it doesn't matter what you do in terms of going to therapists, counsellors, taking medication. If you can't get rid of that fear, you're still going to have it. All you're going to do is mask it and quell it down and soothe it down and make it not on a Richter scale of 10 out of 10. It might get down to 3 or 4. However, you will still have the fear there. I want you to think about this really seriously. Even if you can't remember the event, like if it was, it was childhood abuse, you grew up in violence as well in the house, screaming and yelling, and Dad was throwing things at the wall, smashing things across the table. You know that. You also know that as a child you had no way to deal with it, so you went into lockdown. It's interesting to note too that children will go and hide when that's a form of lockdown. You might have gone and hidden under the bed, outside in the garden. I used to go and hide around the side of my house. Some children hide in cupboards. Some children just go and hide in like a little secret cubby that they've got outside. They'll go and hide in. And that's because of the fear that makes them do that. There are many things you can get rid of. There are many things that you can do to get rid of the fear. There's lots of modalities out there to get rid of it. So I'm going to just go through some of them. The first one I'll talk about is emotional freedom tapping, which I use. You can look at it and Google it, learn how to do it. So when you tap, you will go to tap the fear out of your body and then do another tap on the fear out of your mind. If you can feel it, sometimes you can feel it in your solar plexus, the fear, or you'll feel it like in your heart, then you tap it out like that. And go and check the tapping if you don't know how to do it. It's very, very powerful. You have to do it several times, of course. You can't just do one tap and think it'll be fixed. I would do it daily for a couple of minutes, and that's all it takes. You can also go to someone who does it and have someone tap on you. And that can also be very powerful too, because having someone there to help you release it is good. Another thing you might want to look to is hypnosis. If you go and get hypnotized, and before you go to get hypnotized, Just have the intention, when I go and do my hypnotherapy, I'm going to let go of the fear that's trapped in my mind and my body, and then your body will be ready to do that. So go and have some treatments and talk to the person and see if you can get rid of the fear, because you can try and get rid of the PTSD and the trauma as such, and you can do some work on that as well. But what you want to do is, the trauma is because of the fear. It's kind of caught there in you. I also like to use release when I'm meditating, and you can do that when you meditate and release it. You can also relax and try and release it. Another powerful and very powerful one is to go to someone who does breath work or rebirthing. They will get you to start breathing in a kind of, it's a cycle, like a little circle of breathing, and they'll get you into we call it like a trance. Like you're still there, but you're breathing, you're going into another space, and then you can let go of the fear. Your body might cry, your body might shake, you might tremble. I remember when I did a rebirth, I just shook, my whole body just shook, and that was releasing the fear that I'd held all those decades. Rebirthing is very powerful. You can also do your own breath work, learn how to do that, where you breathe in with your mouth open, and ask the body to let go of the fear, and you'll go into like a space there, and all these emotions will come up, and you'll have that. Often it's best to go, I feel, especially initially, to a trained rebirther or person who does breath work, and do a couple of sessions, see if you can really get rid of a lot of it. You can also write your fear out, so do a journal. Write down all the things that you were frightened of, or you remember you were frightened of, or that you are currently frightened of, and there'll be quite a list, and then release them. And when you do your writing, then afterwards, see if you can read it out, because by reading it out, it sort of brings up even more and releases the emotion. The Bach flower remedies are good. You buy them at the chemist. And there's ones, rescue remedies, are very good. Take that every day. And the other thing that's good is to look up different Bach remedies, some that are specific, like Mimulus is for fear. And there's another one, I can't remember right now, but you can check it out if you're interested. There's many things we can do, but we basically have to go, I have PTSD because I have fear, and it's exhibiting in all these ways. That's quite often why people who come from childhood abuse, when the fear starts to build up as they get older, because they have other fears, of course, so you're getting up multiple fears, they will have sleeping problems, because often these things happened at night. And that's what I want you to put the link between not sleeping, having insomnia, and that maybe you had some child abuse there, and that is why it happened at night, in the evening, and the things were quiet, and it's coming up at night. They're kind of like your demons, I suppose. I want you to go away and really think about this. This is where it is, I think. PTSD is an anger, and even though we know it's post-traumatic and it's about trauma, the trauma is caused by the fear. That's why you're traumatized, because it's such a fearful event for you. I think you can have great success with this. I think that you can get better by releasing all the fear, and you'll find that you'll start to feel better, you'll feel calmer. The little things that you were fearful about aren't there so much, because it's not really about going to the dentist or the job interview or driving the car or leaving the house. It's not about those things. It's about the fear behind those things. And that's where your trauma was, and you had a traumatic experience or experiences, and now it's exhibiting in all these other ways. And I hope you get some success with it. PTSD just sucks, and it's really, really hard to live with, and you feel like a crazy person. And you also don't feel normal. You never feel normal, because everyone else just does everything, and you're like, why can't I do that? But it's because of the trauma and the trapped fear. So I'm wishing you well with this, and I'm hoping you get some success. You might find some other modalities that have worked for you. There's one with eye movement that some people have had success with, and there's also cognitive work that people have done to try and release it. But basically, anything that gets rid of fear is where you want to go and try. And you can always send me a little message, and if you've got success and or you know of any other modalities, I could pop them on a separate podcast so we can try and help as many people with this. So I'm hoping you have a less fearful week. I'm sending you lots of love.